hopefully their clicker gonna work with me. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, I feel a little bit pressure to take in the stage after Willem, but please bear with me. And before we jump into their fast product delivery or project delivery, a few words about myself. My name is Ksenia. I'm based in Amsterdam, so Team Netherlands, everybody from give a shout out. Yeah, I'm doing developer relations, and also I have a team where we are building a better developer experience for Mollie. A few personal facts. I have a baby cat, Tiffany. It's very important to know about me. And if anybody wants to, I don't know, check it out, see my cat, I'm happy to do that. We have an entire day for that. And one fact that I'm very proud about, and I didn't check actually today, I have a very nice Uber rating. Okay, it's like 4.98. Okay, so I don't know like if anybody in this room have similar, but that's the only slide where I can brag about myself, so I'm going to use this opportunity. Okay. All right, let's dig into this. So think about when you have a project, and I'm more than sure that everybody in this room had this feeling when, okay, I have so much of tech debt, I have so many tasks lined up, and then I probably work in 2 weeks sprint, and then customer asking for more and more features, and then you feel like you're running in a cycle and you can't really deliver anything at the end. And I know that this room full of developers, I don't know if there are any project managers, but I think this something that what I'm going to talk about today can be adopted and should be also adopted by developers who are building stuff. I'm going to talk about 2 major things. So first, I'm going to talk about principles that you can adopt to as a guiding rules when you're driving a project or product, or you're building your Hyvä project. Or I know some agencies also build some SaaS product and subscription. So this is ultimate, I think, like a playbook that can work for many use cases. And disclaimer, this is not, of course, all the tactics that you can use. Okay, this is something that I found for myself when I was solving my problems, and I was reading a lot and learning a lot about different product management, project management, and what actually works, what's not working. And then I'm going to provide you a part of principles. I'm going to share with you techniques that you can again like pick and match and see what works for you. So when we're talking about the setbacks, and I'm sorry it's so small, but I hope that you see at least something, and I hope there will be slides shared after. But I feel like the most common setbacks, it's, yes, we can talk about KPIs, which are unclear. Yeah, we can talk about, I don't know, some unrealistic timelines. But I want to focus more on the scoping, on the iteration, on the beginning of the project, when you define and align, okay, what's our scope for MVP? And you also align when you're going to stop. I saw it many times in my engineers on my team, they're also like, let's build this, and then this, and then this. They never know when to stop. So you always have to know what your MVP is and when your project is ready at this stage. And of course, like it's not only between the teams, so it might be misalignment between, let's say, I don't know, designer, project manager, developer, but it also can be misalignment between customer if you work in an agency and you're building for customer. And yeah, a few more things like resistance to change when you see that something's not working and engineers still like, no, we're going to try, we're going to do this, we're going to still keep what we built, we're not going to like ditch it and start from scratch. And sometimes you have to do this. Okay, let's start with principles. Principle 0, and I know that again, do we have any project managers in the room? Like anybody? Oh, we do have a few. Okay, that's great, because I was like focusing it entirely for engineers, but that's good. So step 0, every engineer, every developer, you have to adopt a product mindset. And it's not that difficult. It's just a guiding rule how you approach any product, any scope of the things that you have to do. And here you always commit to the following things. You're like, okay, it's continuous discovery and validation. It means even if you scope something for MVP and then you go in live, let's say, with something, you're discovering, you're building, it doesn't stop there. Another thing that you have this co-ownership. Yes, I know that sometimes it's like product manager or project manager pushing, then engineers trying to achieve something, but it should feel more like, okay, we have, let's say, 3 people in the team: designer, project manager, developer. Or maybe you have 2 developers who don't have project manager. Also possibility. So it should be co-owned outcome here. And one more important thing, you can see this like desirability, feasibility, viability. When you have all of these 3 things in your project or product, the less risky and less costly, whether we are talking about actual cost or resources, the project gonna be. And this is taken from Marty Keegan. I'm not familiar, but I'm gonna use like a lot of the Marty Keegan references, Shape Up methodology, Teresa Torres, lots of different things, and happy to share all the list what good to read afterwards. So desirability, it's what your customer need. Feasibility, it's your technical possibility, like what's feasible to do technically and what resources you have. And viability, I think it's clear. It's like overall how it's gonna be sustainable solution. One more part of their product mindset, that you start thinking not about how many features you're gonna build. So just ditch this thinking at all. But you start thinking about, okay, what outcome I'm going to bring. So this shifts entirely from the how you scope, how you think about the project. You think entirely about the outcomes over outputs. And again, I know it might be not that easy right way to process and to adopt, but next time you're doing a project, start thinking about it. Okay, this is what my customers need. This is what outcome I want to get. And you basically, like having these outcomes in your mind instead of some actual features. I don't know, build your code, build this thing, because it doesn't reflect it on the customer needs, what they need. Another principle that I want to share, and this is taken from Shape Up methodology, shape your work first. So before you do anything, it's like a mantra. Before you start coding, before you, I don't know, buy domain name for your project or whatever you do, you spend time of having this like raw idea to shaped pitch. This process will take some time, but it's necessary, because then you'll save a lot of time going further into the building stage. And and when you're building, also you won't have a fully mapped solution, because let's be honest, it's impossible. There are always some dependencies and technical things that can come up in your project, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay, like I didn't scope it, and now what I'm supposed to do is my deadlines and etc. So spend this time on shaping, and in different teams it can be different persona who is doing this shaping. I would say in smaller teams where you have, let's say, lead developer can do that. In bigger teams, when you have product owner or project manager, it's usually project manager who's doing it together with cooperation with engineer to understand all the technical feasibility aspects. And a few more simple but powerful concepts, just to make, and I will share what it means in a second. So you start with a number, means how much time you're ready to spend on this feature or on this project, instead of how much time will it take. Okay, I'll give him like moment to process it. So you don't start with okay, this feature takes 2 weeks, this feature takes 5 months, and so on and so forth, because then you give yourself endless time to never finish what you started. Instead of this, you set an appetite, not a deadline, again. And think about it as a time budget. So you split your project, you have, let's say, 3 cycles, and then you start, okay, for this, I'm ready to spend 6 weeks. I'm ready to do this. And you ask questions like, okay, what tools will I need to use? Is it even feasible to do it? Which parts of building probably will, slow me down? And you do it on this stage. But again, think about it as a time that you're ready to spend. And I will explain you why when we'll start talking about cycles. You also, while you set in a fixed time, you have variable scope. Because again, it's impossible to map everything. yeah, it's impossible to map everything when you just started. You keep your scope variable, and when you have this appetite, it forces you to make these trade-offs, because you're like, okay, I agreed to spend on this 6 weeks. Then you have to cut off some of the decisions, and while doing this, you cut off most likely something that it's not that important. So you always keep something that important for a customer, user, merchant, and so on and so forth. So this is also like a nice sanity check on what you're delivering, not to be carried away by some nice to have features that probably won't bring that much value. Okay, so this again, the guiding principles, and you will see that I connect sometimes on the different techniques to these principles throughout this, more like on a tactical level, what can you do? First, we were talking about shaping your idea and also like shaping and building. I tried working in 2-week sprints. Honestly, for me, it's very short and you can't really ship anything meaningful in 2 weeks. And also you spend a lot of time on planning, while again, 2 weeks ended and then you again start planning, and it takes us a lot of time. So for me, I found it not really efficient to have it this way. But this is another method how you can use it. So usually there is a person who helped to shape the project. Let's call it shaper. And again, it can be leading developer, it can be your product manager, it can be project manager, it can be, I don't know, if you work in a merchant organization, it can be probably like someone who's on technical side or founder guiding you through this. And then, of course, there is engineer who building stuff. So you use 6 weeks for building, and you only focused on the tasks that you defined as per your like appetite. Anything else that comes on top, you cut it. You just don't do anything that comes on top. Because let's be honest, of course, unless it's like real crisis that you have to fix it. But to be honest, real crises, they happen pretty rare. Like, of course, everybody will tell you, oh my God, everything like it's important, but not really. If we're honest with ourselves, it's not really that important. It can wait. So you focus on this. You're only building it for 6 weeks. And then you have 2 weeks of cool down. For these 2 weeks of cool down, let's say, think about it as a time to breathe, where you can, I don't know, look into some nice to have features that you wanted to add, or maybe you can fix some bugs and do some little tweaks. So you're not doing anything massive what was in your scope, but more like cleaning up and, prioritize on your own what you want to deliver. In parallel, you see this out of cycle, which is again shaping when you again putting together, let's say, pitch, what's the problem, what's the solution, what's going to be in the scope, you're setting up an appetite. And then you have bet. It means that you can have different bets. Think about it as different projects. It's just another terminology here. And then you're choosing what project you go ahead with, again, based on your priorities and what delivers the best value for your merchant or customer, depends on what you're building. So I find it very, very powerful not to get distracted. And 6 weeks also gives you an idea to see the result. So it's very rewarding. 6 weeks, you can do stuff. Like, you can actually see some result at the end. And if you approach it, let's say, so basically you have, let's say, UX, you have front end, you have back end. If everybody doing something which is not connected, you will never see the final result, because it's going to be like, okay, I will start working, let's say, on design, and then front end is like waiting for this design. But if you approach it simultaneously for the same piece of technology, and let's say, imagine it as a cake with the layers, and then if you just use it as a one piece of cake and work all together on something that you can see that works, so then you can, again, it's very rewarding experience that you can see this, oh, okay, I actually shipped this and that. And I know that it might be difficult to start right away with this, right? So I know that some teams, they just start with 6-week cycle idea, or maybe they just start with appetite thing and try to introduce it, not to have, let's say, breaking changes in the process. Okay, another idea and technique that also I like to use a lot, it's from product outcomes from their Marty Keegan. It's rapid prototyping. So here you don't want to spend much time on their, let's say, hi-fi design. building stuff and so on and so forth, you want to have a really fast solution to make sure that it makes sense, to prove that it works, and then you iterate and do it better. So the key difference with this approach is that you iterate. You don't try to do something perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. You build small, you see if it works. Okay, like it makes sense. Let's say you build a checkout and then, okay, it makes sense. I'm gonna now go full scale on this. And you save a lot of time on this, a lot of time. Always splitting this into smaller chunks and do it now, but then do it better, then do it again, okay? All right. Have you ever thought that t-shirts might be not only clothing, but also very useful capacity planning tool? Honestly, I found out about it like a year ago. So I was trying to figure out how to align with my team because we were building API gateway and it's very too many things that you're working on. You're working on infrastructure, you're working with cloud, you're working also on some code delivery actually to do the gateway. And I realized that everybody's talking about different effort when they mean, oh, it's fast to do, or oh no, it's so big, we'll never get there. And I was like, okay, no, it's not working because I don't understand. And I'm honestly like, I'm not that good on the infra side. So I was just like, I needed something to understand how I can measure that, how I can actually align the entire team to have the same understanding of efforts which had to be put to make this project happen. And I found this. This technique is from Atlassian. They have Jira and, Atlassian product and Confluence, all of these names, but that works amazingly. So what do? You use t-shirts as something that everybody understands as a size of the task. So everybody knows what small size is. Everybody knows what large size is. And this helps you to align on the efforts. If you're using one person who always align these t-shirt sizes, that's even better because it leads to consistency. And I want to show you an example how I do it in Mollie. So it's just like real snapshot from real roadmap that I put together. And you can see some steps that I followed. And then you see that, okay, t-shirt size for entire block, it's medium. But then what I've done, I also split it into initiatives. And of course, let's say, oh, set up new repository. Oh, it's definitely a small task. It doesn't require much, Or let's say design the architecture of the webhook handler. Yeah, it's not large, but it's kind of unknown territory that we would need to spend more time on this. Also think about it that small, it's always something that you know how to do. You've done it before. It's something not necessarily even if it's fast to do, but something that you are familiar with. The more you go towards bigger size, the more unknown territory you step into. For our team, it worked pretty well. So, and then we're like, okay, but it's medium. No, it's large. Why it's large? Okay. And then you see all of this, and it's way easier to map it. Okay, now let's talk about feature flags. I also realized that not every team, not every developer team using feature flags, and not sure why the reason behind that, whether it's like lack of time or experience with this, but I also use it a lot, and I think it can be useful for any project you're working on. So the idea is the following. You build a feature, you wrap it in a flag, meaning then you can only, let's say, you can hide certain features, or you can actually open it to a certain amount of people. And then you test incrementally. That means that you can roll out it, let's say, to 5% of your traffic. 5% of the traffic, they're using this feature. Then you see some, errors coming your way. And that allows you without any risks, okay, almost without any risk. I don't see any risk if you roll out it to 5% and you actually observe what's happening, to test it incrementally and get some results. After that, you either iterate and scale. So you open up to a more amount of their traffic, or just roll back. You don't need to redeploy anything. You're just like, okay, I just roll back. Like, this didn't work. Fine, move on. It saves so much time. And it allows you to bring everything what you're building in front of the customers as soon as possible. Yeah, okay. I added some magic ball here. So this is another tactic that is used by Teresa Torres, and she introduced it, and you can read a lot in continuous deployment. She's amazing talking about how you can continuously deploy things. Some teams call it risk assessment, but for me, risk assessment